Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Check, mic check. Mic check. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check.
If everybody could take a seat, thank you so much. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the San Marcos CISD Board of Trustees. Tonight is August 17th at 6 o'clock in our central offices. Welcome back to our new school year. So great to see everybody here. I know everybody's been super busy getting ready for Wednesday, and I know our kids are super excited to be back. So thanks for all of your hard work getting campuses ready, getting curriculum ready, getting everything ready to go. We're also very excited to see everybody tomorrow morning at Convocation. We have a packed agenda this evening, so we're going to try to move things right along. I am going to skip over the statement, just reminding everybody that this is a meeting of the board conducted in the public, but it is not a public meeting, so please use your best judgment and be respectful. We appreciate that. I'm calling the meeting to order, declaring that we have a quorum. We have 6 board members in person present. And I believe we have 1 board member who will be joining us later. And I would like to now call forward the team from Rodriguez Elementary School, who are going to lead us this evening in the pledge to the American and Texas flags, please. Everybody could stand.
Good evening, President Halsey, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Cardona. I'd like to present the Kitzmiller-Reyes family from 4th grade, Benny and Liliana, and from 3rd grade, Isaiah. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, and one indivisible.
Thank you.
Thanks y'all so much. Have a great school year. Welcome to our new principals and our new administrative staff. We're so happy to have you here. And we have this evening 2 speakers signed up for a public forum. The first is Matthew Young, please.
Good evening, President Halsey, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Cardona, and all those present tonight. Welcome back. It actually feels great to see everyone as we start another exciting year. Before I start, I need some help on something. On the way to tonight's board meeting, I may have borrowed my daughter's favorite book. If she realizes that it's missing, there's not enough cotton candy, ice cream with rainbow sprinkles in the state of Texas to get me out of that doghouse. So if you can just kind of keep that between us, Mr. Young, really appreciate it. At first, if we look at these pages, they look empty. There's no color, there's no picture, there's nothing that really tells us what might be there. And sometimes I worry that's what happens when we look at a student only through the accountability system. I want to tell you about a student named Steve. Steve was 8 years old, and Steve struggled to read. Every other day when other students would open their books, Steve would open up his. But sometimes he would sit there waiting, listening, and then hoping one day that he'd be able to connect the words. Eventually, Steve stopped raising his hand. He stopped volunteering, and then one day he looked up at his teacher and said 4 words that no 8-year-old should believe: I'm just not smart. If we look at Steve's test scores, we might see a student who was below standard, a student who did not meet expectations, a number, a percentage, a data point on a spreadsheet. But here's the critical part. One of his teachers saw something different. She saw a student who loved science. She saw a student whose eyes lit up when he talked about planets and dinosaurs. She saw a student who stayed at the table a few minutes longer each day, one sound, one word, one sentence at a time. And then one day, Steve read the entire page by himself. When he finished, he looked up at the teacher, and with a smile that no accountability report could measure, he said, I did it. I did it, Mr. Young. And this is what our educators in San Marcos get to see. They get to see the whole picture. The Texas Accountability System matters. Achievement matters. We should hold ourselves accountable for helping every student grow. But an A through F rating does not tell the entire story of a student. Steve is not a letter. He is not a percentage. He is not approaches meet your master. Steve is somebody's baby. He is a student with hopes, with fears, talents, and a story that is still being written. Our job is to keep trying and keep teaching and keep trying to add color, to keep believing, and to never allow an 8-year-old to believe that on one day, one test, one score, or one label has already decided what they're capable of becoming. Because see, Steve's story was never empty. There was always something beautiful there. It just took someone to believe long enough for Steve to see the beauty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our second speaker is Jim Davis.
Good evening, school board. I hope you had a restful summer and a good time this year. I'm Pastor Jim Davis from Grace Bible Church here in San Marcos. In October of last year, we formally challenged 32 books containing graphic sexual content. Those challenges were dismissed and appealed in January, and then now currently we're under petition before the TEA as of July 17th. 8 books are currently banned by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, considered too dangerous for adult inmates. It's intellectually dishonest to maintain that material deemed unsuitable for a prison population is somehow appropriate for our students. Yet in defense of retaining these books, Superintendent Cardona has previously stated our children are not criminals. Serial killer Ted Bundy explained his descent into depravity. It started for me when I was 12 or 13 years old. He was in Hunt Junior High School at the time. The journey began with softcore porn and quickly escalated to hardcore porn. Obsession with this material shaped his desires and eventually fueled his criminal behavior. How does one know with an enrollment of 8,100 students whether there might be one with potential criminal behavior? Material in books challenged read as instructional manuals for sexual exploitation, group sex among adolescents, detailed guidance on sexual devices, and gang rape of a 14-year-old girl by upper-class students. That's just some of the books. There are clear violations of the law and a risk causing long-term psychological harm to developing minds. 32 books of this nature retained is a failure of oversight and a dereliction of duty. Do not ignore Texas law. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick made his position clear in recent interview regarding Senate Bill 13. He stated, "We thought if we passed a bill telling a school not to do this, they're not going to do it. I know how to get to the heart of the school district, and that's with the purse. So if these books continue to remain in school libraries, they're going to have a funding cut. Get ready for the next session. You might as well get them out of the school starting in September because we're going to come hard on this." Let us be clear about the law. With the passage of Senate Bill 13 and Senate Bill 412, this district has clear legal authority to remove these materials. This is not a violation of students' First Amendment rights. It's the exercise of the district's duty to ensure educational materials are age appropriate and safe. The law is on the side of the protection, not the exploitation. To remove offensive books from our school libraries and classrooms is likely less costly than the coming funding cuts. My church, we're praying for the school board, for you, Dr. Cardona, and we pray for the best for our school. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Pastor Davis. The next item on the agenda this evening is the superintendent's report. Dr. Cardona, please take it away.
All right, Madam President, members of the board, welcome back, everybody. At this time, I'd like to bring up Chief Standridge, who wants to highlight our SROs and the wonderful work they do to go above and beyond for our kids.
Dr. Cardona, if it'd be appropriate, can I have them come up with me? Because this is about them.
Y'all come on up, front and center.
Misery loves company, so come on up.
But keep Roll Don and Stewart separate, because
Oh, that's a fair point. So if I've not met you yet, my name is Stan Standridge. It's my honor to serve as the police chief here in San Marcos. It's my honor to stand with these men and women. Also joining us today is Assistant City Manager Alonzo Anderson. He is back there, Chief Anderson, so thank you. As well as Chaplain Mike Hollifield and Assistant Chief who oversees operations, Dwayne Poorboy. So thank you all, and thank you for this opportunity. On April 20th, 1999, 13 people lost their life at Columbine High School in Colorado. Texas lawmakers watched this play out, and they asked themselves the same question: could this happen here? And if so, are we prepared to meet that threat? Their answer became law in 2001 when the Texas legislature created the Texas School Safety Center. And if you don't know, I'm sure I'm speaking, I know you all don't, but they may not know that that's actually based here in San Marcos in collaboration with Texas State University. So it was created in 2001, not as a reaction, but as a promise that Texas schools would have real training, real research, and real people standing between kids, our kids, and harm. 25 years later, that promise has a face. Specifically, it has 7 faces. We're talking about Commander Rich Mazanin and Sergeant Tony Scott. Tony, raise your hand, who oversees the unit. We're talking about Rick Rodan. Raise your hand as I'll call you out. Franco Stewart at the high school. These two are at the high school. Alex Adams at Goodnight. Linda Stewart at Miller. Jack Williams at Lamar. Awesome. 7 officers who didn't stop at the minimum that the state requires. And that's why I'm here to recognize each of them. Every one of them, under Commander Rich Mazanin and Sergeant Tony Scott, is a certified mental health peace officer. Every one of them. Ask any other school district who has that. That's incredibly rare, but they didn't stop there. They continued going. And so that's actually what I'm here to report for the benefit of our community. They have to complete what's called SBLE, School-Based Law Enforcement. We love our acronyms. To be an SRO, you must have a minimum of 20 hours of school-based law enforcement. Our newest SRO is Alex Adams. He began last year. He's making a heck of an impression at Goodnight. He completed his 20 hours, but over the summer, he completed his introductory school-based law enforcement certification, achieving another 32 hours on top of everything he's already done. So he is well on that path. All others standing before you have completed their intermediary, their advanced, and now I'm happy to report their master's level courses. You are looking at master level certified school-based law enforcement officers. Each one of those progressions required 32 hours with continued testing. Commander Rich Mazanin, who is not here because he's attending in-service this evening, he oversees the unit. He's additionally completed the postmaster certification. I don't even know what that is. It sounds made up, but that's what he tells me it is. So, when we ask this evening whether our schools are ready, the answer is not found in a statute or a training manual. It's found in 7 people who decided that the minimum was not good enough for our children. 25 years ago, Texas made it a promise on paper. These 7 officers renew it every day, in person and in your hallways. That's the promise this board and this police chief are gathered here to say thank you for this evening. And I hope you all may add some words to mine, but I know I'm proud of each of these men and women. That's all I have. President Halsey?
Thank you very much. We really appreciate all y'all and everything that you do for our schools and our kids. Thank you.
Can we get a picture with the board? Picture?
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate y'all very much, and I know our kids and families appreciate it. And it really is a special place, and I want to just thank Chief Stanridge. You know, we've always had excellent relationships with our SROs, and I think since he's been on board, they've become even stronger and more proactive. And so this is just an example of what the city does to work with us to make sure that our kids and our families are safe. So, Chief, thank you very much. Moving on, in just a second, we're going to have an academic update by Dr. Guajardo. And first of all, we want to celebrate all our great victories. We want to celebrate San Marcos Excel Academy receiving an A, been in existence for 2 years, dropout prevention school, and they're an A-rated school, and I think they should be applauded in the community for the work they do. We have, I'll go alphabetically so they don't get mad. Crockett Elementary, Dr. Holmes, A-rated campus. We appreciate all 6 distinctions, yes. At Hernandez Elementary, soon to be Dr. Gonzalez over there, another A-rated campus. Dr. Marilyn Young in Miller Middle School, B-rated school, moving towards an A. Ms. Barry, first-year principal with 13 first-year core-tested teachers, held the line and moved up some, and so we see great things ahead for Barry. And all our schools, we're in a great position moving forward. The academic update will kind of center around some of the questions that the board has asked and some of the questions that we started working on back in June. So we knew some of this data was going to be around. We made a move to bring in Dr. Guajardo as our Chief Academic Officer, who I think is a brilliant mind and thinks system-wide, and started immediately hard work with our campus principals and their leadership teams this summer. What I'm asking for the community is this is a time moving into our new accountability system in 27-28 with me exiting and the board identifying somebody that will take the district to the next level, that we rally around the schools. And when I say we, I mean our ministerial alliance. I'm talking about Rotary Club, Lions Club, Kissing Tree Readers is a new group we're bringing in to read to our kids. I think, you know, we have a unique opportunity. If you look at the scores of the districts around us, we're close, but we have gaps, and we have gaps that have been in place for 10 years, and they're going to require us and you all to ask hard questions. And I say you all, but I'm not going anywhere. While I'm retiring, I have talked to the principals about spring, you know, offering my services to cover them while they get into the classroom so they can do the work in the classrooms. But I'm really excited. I'm really appreciative of the team, that the vision that Dr. Guajardo has. I'm sure there will be questions, but the data is the data, and now it's what do we do as a group to move forward. Our group has already started moving forward. They are ready to hit the ground running on day one, but I'd like to call up Dr. Guajardo so she can present kind of a look at where we're at and where we need to go.
Good evening, President Halsey, board members, and Dr. Cardona. I'm happy to be here. I've got about an hour and a half presentation, so I brought my water. I'm just kidding. All right. I'm going to wait until it's up on the... Okay. So as Dr. Cardona mentioned, we have mixed results. Overall, our district stayed the same, but I'm going to walk through the results of each of the campuses. We're going to talk about some of the highlights. We're going to talk about the areas of focus and the concerns that we have, and then what the plan is moving forward. Okay, so as a reminder, our accountability system is, it looks like this. So it's 70% from domain 1 or domain 2, and domain 2 has 2 parts. Domain 2 is growth and its relative performance, and that relative performance is related to your economically disadvantaged percentage of students. And then 30% comes from domain 3, which is closing the gaps. So I've got the descriptions here, student achievement, that's just straight star scores or EOC scores. Again, domain 2 is school progress and domain 3 is not school progress, it's actually closing the gaps. All right, we also are going to share distinction designations because we have quite a few and we want to make sure that we recognize those distinctions. This information was shared last year in the at this time, and there are 7 possible distinctions. And in elementary school, you can earn 6, but in high school, you can earn 7. All right. They are academic achievement in reading, language, arts, academic achievement in mathematics, academic achievement in science, same thing in social studies. And then we have top 25% comparative academic growth, top 25% comparative closing the gaps, and then post-secondary readiness, which is the one that applies to the high school that doesn't apply to the other campuses, elementary and middle schools. Okay, the other thing I want to make sure everybody knows, because it's included in this report as well, are additional supports that could be prescribed to schools based on their outcomes. You have CSI, which is called Comprehensive Support and Improvement. If you are identified as comprehensive support and improvement, then those schools are required to develop and submit a board-approved targeted improvement plan, and they have to submit that to the agency, to TEA, by November 20th of this school year. The other 2 types require an improvement plan as well, so for targeted support and improvement and additional targeted support, but those plans do not have to be submitted to TEA, but they do need to be developed and they do need to be board approved, so those will be coming before you in this fall semester. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into the data. This is the overall picture, so you can see that overall our district remained a 76 at a C, and then these are all of the results by campus. And you can see we go all the way from a 91, and we have the lowest is a 62. So I'm going to start with the district. This is a 3-year look. In 2024, we were at a D, and then for 2 years, we've been at a C. And one of the questions that the board asked was specifically about the components and what that looked like year to year. And so what we've incorporated is a 3-year look across all 3 domains so that you can see growth or decline. So for the district, you can see that we improved in domain 1, which is that star performance, which means that achievement improved overall. Academic growth took a little bit of a dip. We did improve for relative performance and then closing the gaps. If you'll recall board members, in July when I sent information once the scores came out, I did send a notice to you about the different calculation for TELPAS, which is an English language proficiency exam. And last year when they measured that, students only had to get an improvement in 2 of the 4 components. But this year that calculation changed. In order for you to get a benefit from a student making improvement, they had to improve their overall composite score, which is a significant difference from one year to the next. Here's the high school. The high school was also a D in 2024. They went to a 75 in 2025, and then they went up 1 point this past year. They did earn 1 additional distinction. Last year they had 2 distinctions. This year they have 3 distinctions, a distinction for reading, language arts, mathematics, and social studies. That's pretty exciting. The English teachers were very excited about that. All right, here's what the component scores look like. This is the most complex one that you're gonna see because domain 1 in high schools has 3 components which don't exist in the other school levels. So in addition to the star performance, which is that very top box, right? So you can see an improvement all the way across. Then they have college, career, and military readiness, which I know you are familiar with, that's CCMR, and then graduation rates. And so you can see that we made improvement in the star performance, we made improvement in CCMR, and CCMR is a 2-year lagging indicator. So this past year, with the support of Kayla Kirk, who's now in the associate position, there was a lot of progress in CCMR, so we're going to be excited to reap the benefits of that next school year. You can see that we also, we stayed the same in the graduation rate, and graduation rate is also calculated in the 4, the 5, and the 6 year graduates. Academic growth, there was improvement. Relative performance, there was improvement, and there was a decrease in closing the gaps, and that is directly related to TELPAS. But in closing the gaps, we also measure other student groups. There are race and ethnicity groups. There is groups for GT, special education, migrant, homeless. All of those groups are included in there. Okay, here's Excel with the green A, yes. The important thing to know here is that this is only their second year that they are a separate campus, and that's why in 2024 they did not have a rating. But then they went from a 74 and they moved to a 90. Domain 3 this year was not rated, and the reason for that is because they were calculating their rates against regular campuses, right? And so what was happening is alternative campus, this is an alternative campus, and so what was happening is that no one could meet the standard because they weren't comparing them to other alternative campuses. And so for this year, they did not rate Domain 3. Next year, there will be rating because they'll have the enough history to be able to show comparison year over year. And this is what theirs looks like. I did not include 2024 because they weren't a separate building. And college, career, military in 2025, there's no score because it's a 2-year lagging indicator. And the same thing for graduation rate. It's based on the year before. Now, Goodnight Middle School. 3 years ago in 2024, Goodnight was a 68, which was a D. They did move up to a 77 in 2025. And they are rated a D this year. That 69, their mathematical average is actually a 70, but it is capped at a 69, and I'll show you why in just a moment. This school has been identified for additional targeted support, which means they will create a plan, and that plan will be approved by you. If you want to know about comparison groups, this is where distinction designations come from. I forgot to mention that on the high school. But the comparison groups are linked there in your presentation. It will take you directly to the page that shows you the 40 comparison schools. It's a random pool based on demographic information. It's the state's representation of like schools across the state. So here is Goodnight. So you can see that they had the most significant decrease, which is definitely an area of focus for us, is that academic growth. When you drop 10 percentage points, that is significant. And then you can also see the same thing with the closing the gaps. And because they had a D, an F in academic growth, and another D, anytime you have 3, you cannot be higher than that D. Miller Middle School. They had a 78, and they are now at an 83. They earned 5 distinction designations. And there's their comparison group. And this is how it broke down. So I know that one of the important questions for the board was to really know not just the overall score, but kind of tell us what happened, right? And so we can tell you what happens when the score drops, but the same thing is true for our campuses that improved a lot. So you can see a significant jump there in the STAR performance. There is also the academic growth, another significant jump in relative performance, and they also improved their closing the gaps. And that all resulted in an 83. Bowie Elementary. Bowie Elementary was an F in 2024. They moved to a D, and they maintained a D, but they did improve. They are identified as targeted support and improvement, but they will also be completing their plan, and they will have to bring it to you before the board because they did not move far enough to get out from underneath the plan and the monitoring that they had before. But we're very confident, and that's one of the things I'll talk to you about towards the end. This is what their performance looked like. They did improve in every area. They improved in STAR performance, academic growth, relative performance. They also improved in closing the gaps. Crockett Elementary. Crockett was an 81 in 2024. They moved to an 89. Annalisa was not happy about that. It was an 89.4, she said. Okay, but they are an A, and they earned all 6 distinctions. And there's their comparison group. And here you can see the growth. There's significant growth in that STAR performance from 3 years ago. Academic growth, same thing with relative performance and closing the gaps. They improved in all of the areas. De Zavala. De Zavala was a 72, and then they went to a 71, and this year they were a 62, a D. They have been identified for additional targeted support, so they will be developing a plan, and that plan will be kept on file, and we will bring it to you for you to approve. Here's what their scores look like. So they maintained STAR performance. They did drop with academic growth. They maintained their relative performance, and they did drop in closing the gaps. So those 2 areas that you can see, that academic growth and the closing the gaps, is what caused them to drop down to a 62. Hernandez Elementary. Hernandez has a similar pattern to Crockett. They were a C in 2024. They moved to a B in 25, and this year they're an A in 91. And they have 4 distinction designations. This is what their performance looks like. Again, you can see that they improved in all domains. A significant jump in STAR performance, academic growth, and a really significant jump at closing the gaps. Mendez Elementary. Mendez was a 78. They went to an 89 in 2025, and they did have the most significant drop, which is an area of concern for us. And they are rated a 63, which is a D. They are the other school that will be the comprehensive support and improvement, and we will be bringing that for your approval so that we can submit it by November 20th. You can see their comparison groups there linked. And this is the way that it was calculated. They did drop in every one of the areas. The most significant was that academic growth. Related to that, we can tell you that the focus previously was on intervention, and they approached that intervention in a different way than what would be sustainable. And so the model has changed this school year. But we'll talk about, this is going to be one of the areas that we talk about a lot, the same thing in that closing the gaps, right? And looking at our students that traditionally are considered either underserved or they have an opportunity gap. Those are the students that are in that group 3. All right, Rodriguez Elementary. They were a B, then they were a little bit higher B, an 87, and they dropped to a 75, a C. They did earn 2 distinctions though, one for reading language arts and one for science. If you want to see their comparison group, I believe this is the one that only has one other school. Bowie appears on Rodriguez's comparison group. Last year there were none that were crossed over, but this year that's the only one where 2 of our schools are in the same group. Although Rodriguez was not on Bowie's. That's how that works. It's really random for all of them. This is where the decreases happened. In STAR performance, it was 5%. There's 14% drop in academic growth. Relative performance dropped. and closing the gaps also dropped. And that resulted in them earning a 75. And Travis Elementary. Travis was a D in 2024. They moved up in 2025 to a 79. And this year they earned a D at a 69. So in STAR performance, they went up 1 point, but they did have a significant drop in academic growth. They went up in relative performance, and then again, they had another big decline in closing the gaps, and that resulted in a 69, which is a D. This is just for comparison if you want to look at the surrounding districts, and our economically disadvantaged percent is in there. Sometimes when, let's take Hayes, for instance. Sometimes we're compared to Hayes quite a bit because we border, right? But one of the things that's not in there is the percent of economically disadvantaged. And so we wanted to make sure we put that in front of you so that you could see what surrounding districts look like. And then I do want to share with you that the things that we're excited about is that we have 3 campuses that earned an A, a campus that earned a B, and that's a big deal, and 20 distinction designations. On top of that, I would be remiss if I did not comment publicly about Bowie. Bowie, when I was talking to Jess Berry, who is amazing, and she was, I hope you don't mind me saying that you were a little disappointed, you were frustrated, right? Because they worked really hard. But when we looked at it, I kind of talked to her, I said, tell me about your teachers, and she shared with Darren and I that more than 50% of her 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers were first year, hadn't taught before, right? But if you look at how many of them are 3 years or less, 67% of those teachers in grades 3, 4, and 5 had 3 years or less. And that is remarkable. When you have a brand new principal and you have that many new, they did a fantastic job. And so I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we're very proud of them. They have a phenomenal foundation, and we are super confident that they are going to absolutely make a C and get out of the support plan that they're in. All right. Also, we have some teams in our district that outperform the state, and I did not put anybody on here that was not more than like 5 percentage points of the state, because I believe that if it's like 1 or 2, you're like within the margin of error, right? So, but we do have Algebra 1 at middle schools, what at every level, approaches, meets, and masters, way outperform the state. So our middle school math teachers that teach algebra did a phenomenal job. Also, 6th and 8th grade reading, we have some teams that outperformed the state, and the same thing with 8th grade U.S. history. We have a team that far outperformed the state. We also have 3rd through 5th grade math and reading teams, as well as a 5th grade science team. I mean, when we get to the action plan, this is part of what we're going to talk about, right, is learning from some of the practices that are successful that we currently have in our district. On the other side of that are our focus areas, right? We have some things that we're very concerned about. The first one is that we have 5 campuses that are a D. Every principal knows, we've been talking about it since June, but we very clear, our goal is to have all of our campuses be a B or above. That is the goal. And every principal is committed to ensuring that they support their campus, that they have plans, and that they monitor those plans to ensure that they're making progress towards becoming a B and eventually an A. The other thing that we're concerned about is the variability in campus outcomes. The Office of Academics team has worked really hard to bring alignment in our curriculum and in our instructional materials. And so we have very clear curriculum. We have clear structures for instruction and for monitoring assessments. So for us to have as much variability as we do, that is an area of concern. And then the other thing is really thinking about, because school doesn't begin in 3rd grade, right? One of the collaboratives, principal collaboratives we're going to do in the fall, we're going to be over at Bonham so that we can learn from our Bonham teachers, learn about early childhood literacy and where it actually starts, but also focusing on K through 2, right? And looking at that data and making sure, because if in 3rd grade we are already behind, foundationally there's an issue, and so that is an area of focus for us. The biggest achievement gap areas that we identified it's math and reading, and it's specific to 4th, 6th, and 7th grade. Reading is specific to 4th and 7th grade, and then English 1, English 2, and Algebra 1 also are a concern. So here's the action plan. I'm not sure, I can't remember if I've shared this with you standing up here before, but when you have big gaps in achievement, and if those gaps are 60% or below, like only 60% of kids are meeting the expectation, you have an issue with curriculum. And that curriculum doesn't mean it's the materials or what we have set out, it's the level at which you're teaching it. There is a mismatch between what's happening in the classroom, right, and how the kid is going to be assessed eventually. So the big push that we're doing this year is leadership training and calibration across campuses to make sure that we are supporting teachers, that teachers thoroughly understand the level at which they should be teaching, the level of rigor. We do have Bluebonnet Math implementation, and we've had phenomenal PD this summer from Region 13 and also from Carnegie. I didn't want to call them the wrong name. From Carnegie, and we had teachers doing training over the summer on their own time just so that they would learn about the curriculum, and they came up and got research-based instructional strategies training, which is a full 2 days, and then they also got product training so that they could learn about Bluebonnet. We are also working with Region 13 for leadership development around professional learning communities model, which is going to help us with our collaborative times, planning for Bluebonnet instruction and looking at student assessments. And then the last 2 things are really just systemic things, is being clear about monitoring and early monitoring, right? What is it that we're monitoring? And then what do we do as a result of what we see? Which is directly related to this last bullet, replicating effective practices. I've spent a lot of time talking with the principals, right, kind of learning what their experience has been, what systems they have in place on campuses. And so those teams that you can see that they outperform the state, in the first 2 weeks, I will be in classrooms along with principals so that we can see instruction of who outperformed the state and how well they did, so that I can see that instruction, and so that we can learn from our teams that have effective practices. And then the other thing behind that is, on the other side of that, is eliminating ineffective ones. Based on data, when there's data, we as adults must change our behavior in order to have better results for kids. And so that will be one of the areas of focus, and that focus will be all the way from me, all the way down to team leaders and to individual teachers. It's important for us to act on the data we have as soon as we have the data. I think that's it. If you have questions, you can ask me.
I'm going to go ahead and start. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this comprehensive and straightforward presentation. I think there's a lot here to celebrate. I think there's a lot here that we need to address and that are challenges. But I think that we don't do anything good unless we address it head on, right? So I appreciate that tone and that demeanor from you and from the team. I can see everybody out here in the audience, campus leadership, who understands that. So that's great. I also will say that this accountability system isn't my favorite, right? It isn't necessarily be the one I would design for you all, but it is the one that we have, and it's the one that we have to learn to live with, right? So I would like two things. I'd like to get a better understanding. It doesn't need to be tonight. I'd like y'all to think about it. The things that stood out to me were the dips in closing the gaps and the dips in academic growth. Because if you'd asked me as a trustee what we've been focusing on for the last couple of years, it's those two things. So that's concerning to see those dips, right? Where we're falling behind. So I'd like to know more. You talked a little bit about that with the TELPAS change, but I think if there's other systemic reasons that that's happened, I'd like to identify them so that we can fix them. And the other one is, you said, I believe that the timeline for the targeted improvement plans is 11/20.
That's to submit to TEA.
Okay. I'd like to challenge y'all to bring those to us ASAP, right? Because I
Yes,
think our
ma'am.
kids can't afford to wait any longer, right?
Yes,
So we need
ma'am.
to do that starting day one. So if you can get those to us quick.
Yes, ma'am, and can I do want to say that the plans that are developed are actually, they dovetail very nicely with the campus improvement plan, which the principals are finishing those up so that we plan to bring those to you in September for approval of the performance objectives. And so you're going to see them in September, even though the plan and the format in which it has to be for a TEA might be a little bit different. The deadline for us to turn that in is in November, but we absolutely are working on plans already. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
That's great, because I think we need to really, start on day one. So
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. I know my colleagues are going to have questions. You wanna- Go ahead.
I have a couple things. Yes, ma'am. Thanks for the report. I asked some questions in advance of the meeting, which you've already provided answers to, but I just want to take this public opportunity to say that I'm very alarmed and concerned at what this data shows us. And it's not about singling people out, or it's just collectively owning a problem. I think my family moved here in 1980. Both me and my wife went through these schools, and our 4 kids have gone all the way through to the high school. And one of the bright sides of San Marcos is it was generally one district. We had years where our district would do more poorly and years where our district would do better, but we generally moved as a group. And more than ever before, I see schools that should be lauded, that did very well on the southwest side of town, right, with Crockett and Hernandez and Miller. And if you live over there, which is also our areas of greater affluence, not that those are affluent schools, they aren't by any means compared to state schools, but here they are. If you live over there, there's a path. You can go to either Crockett or Hernandez, then you can get to Miller, you can get to Hernandez, you can feel pretty good about the chance your kid has. But I want everyone in the school district to feel good about the chance their kid has. And if you don't live in that region right now, and you look at these scores, it's alarming. You've got De Zavala, which has been stubbornly low for too long. We've got Mendez, which it was tragic. I mean, I was very excited about how they did last year, and they did not back that up this year. I know there's a lot of change, and change takes time. But again, that's in the same region. We have Bowie, where, as you said, Principal Barry, and I'm sure she did, worked very hard with a group of young teachers, but still, weren't the scores even she wanted or that we wanted to see in Travis, again, which has been a D, I believe, for 4 of the last 5 years. And then they go to Goodnight, which took a concerning drop. And if you live over there, you don't feel like you're living in the same school district. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's loss of the social safety net. I don't know if it's because of budget cuts we were forced to make as a district, that maybe those students who are more vulnerable felt that more quickly. But I don't want to be here and have a district that's really 2 districts. One where we're feeling pretty good and one where we're feeling kind of hopeless. Because every kid, no matter where they live, that's the magic of public schools, should have a chance to go through school and learn what they need to be successful in life. And I don't know if I can say that right now, not on these numbers. And so I am, as an individual trustee, incredibly alarmed and open for ideas and programs, expenditures. If we have to reverse some of what we had to do, or this board had to do, I wasn't quite here, a year and a half ago, then if we did something that contributed to this that was monetary, then let's find an outside funding source or something. But we can't just be okay with how this lays out on our 2 sides of town. That's a statement, not really a question. I had a couple of questions. As to Bowie, on the 13 new teachers and the 67%, I saw that on the score. Did we retain a good number of those?
Say it.
Yes, we retained. Oh, okay.
We just need to, for the live stream, we just need to be on the speaker. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. So of the new teachers that we had in 3rd through 5th, 2 teachers did not return due to not completing their certification requirements. Other than that, we only have 2 first-year teachers this year at Bowie, so we basically retained everybody. And then of those teachers, we made strategic movements across grade levels based on the information that we had after having spent a year together, getting to know the teachers and their strengths. And so we did make some moves based on that. So we have 2 new teachers instead of 19 out of 35 that we had last year.
Well, thank you for that answer. That makes me feel a lot better.
Thank you.
And then, Dr. Guajardo, I think you didn't say this to your credit, but you weren't in this position when these scores were earned. You were at the high school, and the high school made small gain year to year and held on to the gain it had made the year prior, so that's commendable. But now you're in the chief position of academics, and I know you have a strong secondary history, but we had a lot of issues flag at the elementary level. Do we have someone specifically helping you with that elementary side?
Yes, there are several people actually that I think that we can learn from and that have experience in elementary schools. I do want to say that there are differences between elementary and secondary, but I think some of our systemic issues are rooted in approaches that are in both places. And that directly, what I'm speaking about is low expectations below grade level. If you're starting below grade level because kids come to you with a gap, right, that's a problem. The other thing that I do think is, I can see it in multiple places in our system, is we have really caring people. We have people in all places of our system that love kids, that want kids to feel good, right? And feel good about their life and be happy and hopeful and all those things. And sometimes that runs contradictory to holding a high standard. And so some of the work that we have to do is based on mindset, and it's based on being clear that low expectations really hurt our kids, even when they're unintentional. So yes, I have things for the managerial and those types of things, but I also think that a lot of what we have is rooted in I would call it below grade level expectation.
Just as a brief follow-up, do you feel this board needs to add any position to your curriculum team specifically focused on the elementary level?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I had maybe just one more question, I think. I noticed when I was looking, not at the presentation, but before I got it, I was looking at some of the stuff the state put out, and I don't know that I had seen this before, but by campus they had numbers on a percentage of kids who made a year's growth in a year. And that was the first time I had seen that in the report. Was that the first time they've published that number?
I think he's talking about the growth chart, and then when they have accelerated, do you want to come up and talk about I'm going to get Beth to come up because she'll be able to explain it to you simply. I wish I had a graphic because the graphic would really explain it easily.
Yes, the growth templates are available year over year. You just have to go into the different school information to find it. If you click on the link that has the comparative schools, at the top of that information has the different domains, and you can actually drill into the growth domain, and it will show you the breakdown. The one at the very top is both reading and math combined, and then further down it goes into just reading, and then further down below that is just math. So you can see, does school capitalize on growth in one area or the other or both to get a better idea of progress being made.
Yeah, I saw for instance, at DZ, only 49% of the kids made a year's growth in a year in both subjects, across both subjects, and I found that kind of a red flag. I mean, that's less than half of the kids on campus made a year's growth in a year, so that means if they came in with gaps, they're further behind, so they definitely didn't close them. And if they didn't have a gap before, now 51% of those kids do. And so I found that very instructive, and you could see the difference. in some other campuses, but that one stood out among our struggling ones as particularly alarming. Do we have interim data that shows us if a kid is on pace to make a year's growth, for instance, at the semester?
Yes, sir. And actually, the most actionable data is happening real time in the classroom. And so if you look at unit assessments or formative assessments, that's really where actionable data lives and has the most impact. By the time we wait till the semester, that really is kind of like a check for district. Are you adhering to the curriculum, right? But related to the learner themselves, and to teaching, it really needs to be real time. So having clarity around what the expectations are and what the student performance is, which we do have in our curriculum. And we do have, it's very clearly articulated in Bluebonnet. And so we will be able to see that based on those formative assessments. And so having administrators and other leaders who are in data meetings, who are following up and asking for, tell me how your team did, what did our students do? That will be helpful in supporting that work too.
And if we see a child that, for instance, in November or December is already flagging as maybe not having made a semester's growth in a semester, do we have the ability then to do targeted interventions in the spring? Is that something we already do?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All of our schools have some type of intervention structure where they are pulling kids or they keep them, in secondary, a lot of it is before or after school, or we make an adjustment to their schedule. And the same thing happens in elementary school as well, where they create rotations, they provide very targeted instruction around the highest need areas related to what is the essential standard or what is it that they really need to know. Because as you know, our TEKs they might have 83 TEKs to teach, and the number of instructional, it's impossible. So we have to prioritize them.
And then the last thing for me, I know that we're expecting as a board a plan on incentive, allotment, innovative ideas from our administration. I mean, I would like to accelerate that. I spoke to a teacher in another district where they already have that plan in place, and they shared that teachers were actually seeking out students who were behind or who had gaps to close because of the nature of their incentive system, and we could sure use some of that here. I know that money's available to the state right now. Our teachers aren't receiving it. It's supplemental income for them if we structure it correctly. And so I don't know what the timeline is on when you expect to bring that back to the board.
Okay. This is Beth Cantu.
Director of Talent Acquisition. So one of the TIA leads, we will submit our data validation to TEA in October. We'll find out in February if our system's approved. We'll get to pay out our teachers if it's approved. We'll notify teachers in May, and they'll get payout by August. So we will be able to pay out if our system's approved for last year's data.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, President Wilson.
Can I just clarify on that? Then we're sure that we are doing a good job of making sure our teachers all understand how that data works, because if there's the lag of the year, right, like what do they need to be thinking about this year in order to qualify for it next year?
Yes, so we did send out a TIA update that all of our principals shared during professional development. It was a recording, so all campuses got the same message. We have a QR code for questions, and I will send out an FAQ based on those questions. Beth Nash and I are available for questions at any time.
I would think even campus meetings around those would be great, because that seems like a hard thing to completely comprehend from a TIA or TEA video, which I often find to be problematic.
Okay, we can definitely schedule those at the campuses to be able to.
That would be great, just so everybody knows how it works, right? Because we want them to be using that system and making the best of it right away. So.
Absolutely.
Thanks. All right, other questions from trustees? Ms. Cantu?
The A-rated schools and the D-rated schools all have the same curriculum, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So what are the plans to get your administrative team to work together so that your A-rated teacher, principals or administrators can help the schools that did not make A's?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking that question. We've already restructured our meetings. Previously, in the last 2 years since I've been here as a principal, we've had monthly collaborative meetings, which have been aimed at providing professional development and opportunity for collaboration among principals. As we're moving into this year, we've separated that out into 2 different types of meetings. We have operational update meetings with principals. Every department is on there. It's a Zoom meeting. That way they don't have to leave their campus. And we meet bi-weekly, so that's all operational. So when we begin to meet, which will be the first Wednesday of every month, with the exception of January, because that first Wednesday is the first day back, so we're going to move it to the 13th. We are actually going to be meeting on a principal's campus, and they will host us. In fact, we're going to begin at Miller. And we are going to do instructional rounds. We have a protocol that we're using. It's very basic. We're looking at what is the learning objective, what is the task the student is doing, right? Is it at the right level of rigor? What are kids doing and saying? What is the teacher doing and saying? And out of that comes, what are the practices that need to be replicated that are well adopted on a campus, because we're going to look at 3 different teachers, and teams will go across. We'll probably end up seeing 9 to 12 teachers each time. But then also, what is the highest leverage change that you could make? If you focused on this is going to have the most impact and change. And in those conversations will be principals and people from the Office of Academics, so that we can hear and learn from one another about instruction. Yes, ma'am. And we're going to do that with APs as well on a different schedule.
My second question has to do with parents. I'm sure that the parents in the community are going to be concerned about their child being at a D-rated school. And I'm wondering, what is the administrative staff going to do to work with the parents, especially in the area of closing the gaps, because it seems like that's where we have the greatest need for growth. Is there a plan to have a meeting with parents for things that they can do at home to help, or pushing attendance? I mean, there's got to be a plan in place that is going to involve our parents, because they're the ones that are going to come to us and tell us, we don't like our school being this rate.
Yes, ma'am. And you hit on 2 of the biggest levers, I would say, which is helping support families, right, in skill building and understanding the importance of school. So part of Title I requirements do require you, number 1, to tell your families about academics, the curriculum, those types of things. But it also, there are times and places where we should be supporting families by telling them, this is the way that we're teaching this math, this is the way that we're teaching reading. The other key point you hit on, which we saw great success at Hernandez, was attendance. And what I know about what I know about soon to be Dr. Gonzalez is that she would personally call, and not that you have to personally call, but the message to the parent was, we miss your child, and when your child is not here, they are missing out for the instruction, and they deserve that instruction. We need them here for the instruction. And what was your attendance rate? 96.2. So those are things that we're going to be learning from one another, but yes, ma'am.
We have to involve our parents in this endeavor if we're going to pick up closing the gaps.
President Halsey, can I briefly follow up on that?
Yes, please.
I know I promised my last question, but anyway, like, as to parents, I know I have a niece that's on today's Zavala, and it can be intimidating because you see in the paper or on the news that your school is a D and nobody wants to send their kid. Everyone wants the kid to go to the best school, you know? And so it can be scary, but I think, like, it's not without hope when things can change relatively quickly when everybody pulls in the same direction. When the administration and the board and the campuses are all pulling in the same direction, things can turn around quickly. My daughter was a 6th grader at Miller, and I mean, it was a disaster. We didn't know what to do. We were like, should we pull her out? And this board and the administration made changes there, brought in a dynamic leader in Dr. Young, experienced APs, including Ms. Berry, who's now a campus principal, extra assistant principal to deal with discipline. And 3 years later, it doesn't even look like the same place. It's rated now highly. It's a totally different environment when you walk in the halls. And I'm really proud of that change, because I think it was obviously the people on the ground at the campus doing it, but it was also the community, it was the families involved saying this isn't acceptable, it was this board listening to them and then resourcing it. And it's just now we've got a lot more challenges like that. But I mean, the same approach that worked there can work at Mendez or De Zavala or Travis. And so anyway, that was just my optimistic point. Thank you.
Jessica?
Go ahead, Ms. Kane.
I just want to highlight this replicating what's going well and eliminating what's going bad. I think that we often veer in one direction or the other, and so lifting that up is really important, because we've often focused so much on what's going wrong that we neglect to continue to support what's going well, and vice versa. And I also kind of want to echo what Trustee Cantu was talking about with the principals. I brought this up to you privately as well, but I can imagine that is a very lonely job to have, and I hope that there is support from your side and from each other, especially for our newest principals, that there are folks kind of mentoring along the way and saying, you can do this. As someone who did kind of a lonely job for a long time, it was great when I had someone come in and say, yeah, that's pretty normal for November. So I hope that we can generate that naturally, but also where there's places where we can help support that, please let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Halsey. First, I apologize for my tardiness, everyone, but I was tuning in while in transit. So Dr. Guajardo, you and I spoke earlier today, and for the sake of everyone's time, you might have already addressed some of these questions, but if you could, dive into some of the comments I had shared with you and my questions directly, that would be super helpful for the purposes of this conversation this evening.
Yes, sir. And I do appreciate you sending, just like any other board member, I appreciate y'all sending us the questions ahead of time. The first question you asked was about 2 to 3 systemic issues. And we did already talk about below grade level expectations and beginning below grade level due to gaps. And then perceiving that grade level work is too difficult for students, that's a mindset. Or not knowing the standards well enough. And whether that is an administrator that doesn't know the standard well enough, or a teacher, maybe a first-year teacher that doesn't know. Our job is to make sure that we train them and teach them so that they do know the level of work. But in addition to that, we do have some inconsistent practices across campuses. And so we did talk about different, they all have the same curriculum, but there must be in the implementation something different happening, because we have different outcomes, right? And you can say the same thing when you look at schedules. So the high school benefits from being the only large comprehensive high school, right? But the 2 middle schools have been brought into alignment better on some things like schedule and those types of things. And that is something that we will be looking at as we move forward with our elementary schools, because they have different schedules, different ways in which to organize their teams, and different expectations for the collaborative work of those teams. And we've begun that type of training this summer. And then really clear monitoring systems. So being clear, what data do we monitor? And then what do we do as a result of that data? And it can't be all data. We have to be selective about, here are the 3 to 5 things that we're measuring, and that's it, right? That's it. And at the forefront of that is English and math. So reading and math are the 2 most important areas. The next question you asked was about replicating, which we talked extensively about that, and Trustee Kane just mentioned that. So we have a plan for putting principals and APs and teachers in front of one another so that they can learn from one another. We have amazing practitioners in this district And our job at the district level and working with principals is to break down some of the natural barriers that occur because we're in different buildings. And so setting the culture to be one of support and creating synergy among the adults that we have in our campus and in our buildings. The next thing you did ask was related to action that the board can take to keep the needs, right, kind of forefront, like make sure there's urgency because everybody feels urgency right now. Principals have been feeling urgency since June. And so we're going to invite you to come learn with us at our collaborative meetings. I think it would be incredible for teachers to see board members, right? Maybe there's a rotation and y'all can come and see what's happening in the classroom and see some of the incredible work of our teachers. But then hear those of us that are responsible for providing support and monitoring, hear those conversations. I think that could be something that would really go a long way to showing, like Trustee McLaughlin mentioned, having aligned teams. The whole team is aligned towards moving all of these campuses to B or an A. And then you did ask about the improvement plans for Mendez and Bowie beginning in November, and we did talk about that. The plans have already started. The actual plan and template that we have to use for TEA is very specific, but the elements and components of it actually exist in the campus improvement plan that the leadership team and their teachers have now worked on. And we will be bringing those plans to you in September for your approval. So the work is beginning. We're not waiting until, it's just TEA has a deadline for us to submit it, which we will absolutely do. And then your last question was about what the board can offer to give more help to struggling campuses. And I think Trustee McLaughlin was speaking directly to that about whether or not the budget cuts had impacted because we cut staff. And I thought about this a lot, right? I appreciate being asked from the perspective of the Office of Academics, and I would say that from the standpoint of governance, that clarity on the values of the district is paramount. Being very, very clear about what we value in this community and what we value in an education system. And right behind that is goals, very clear goals. And then taking action through policy making, through budget decisions that you have to make, those things that only the board can do, they have to be aligned to the values and to the goals. They can't be aligned to anything else. And then beyond that, I would, nobody get upset. I'm not comfortable saying that right now we need to add this person at this campus and this, we need to get in there and see what's happening like on the day-to-day. Because right now we've been talking about, it's Monday, it's the armchair quarterback, right? Like everybody knows what the outcome was and everybody's saying, well, I would have done this different. We need to see it in action in order to eliminate what's not working, support what is working and spread that. So I may be coming back to you and saying, hey, we really need this type of interventionist at these 3 campuses and here's why. And here's the plan. It's a 3-year position. We want them to work themselves out of a job. We may be coming to you with that. And then lastly, really support for tough decisions. The campus leadership teams and district leadership need support in the tough decisions that they're going to make. Because when you confront antiquated practices, when you confront practices that yielded data that we know is alarming and concerning, there's pushback to that sometimes. And so I would say if we have support in that, knowing that we're moving towards holding a high standard, and these are the expectations that we have, I think that would go a long way.
Ms. Halsey. Thank you so much, Dr. Guajardo. And just to really emphasize, I think those last 2 points you hit on, I know individually as a trustee, I know there's a sense of urgency every time I've spoken with you. I've heard it in your intonation and in the way in which you communicate the challenges that you see. But even in the proposals of additional staffing or resources, again, just as an individual trustee, emphasizing like whatever it takes. I think some of us are genuinely interested, if not all of us are genuinely interested in strategic investments, making sure our staff have the support to meet those heightened expectations, right? And in the vein of those expectations, I know some of my colleagues can't say it, but like I've been here long enough to own these scores more than most, right? Like I've been up here now going on 12 years, a generation of school children. So when I say that it hurts me as much as probably campus administrators and teachers especially, but with that being said, like we all, like myself, holding myself more accountable to these scores, holding staff more accountable, teachers, having those difficult conversations, while also celebrating what arguably are some pretty tremendous academic achievements at all of our campuses. But knowing that expectations have to change quickly and swiftly in some instances. And so just know that you have my support in making those difficult changes when need be. And again, that might mean I have a difficult conversation with somebody at HEB or at a football game on Friday, but if we're doing what's best for kids, then we can stand by those decisions, right? So just thank you so much for tonight's presentation and your leadership.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I will just say, I heard you say that you need some time, which is fine. I just want to take this chance to tell everybody, we sent out an email. The agenda prep meeting on Tuesday, September 8th is going to be held at 6 p.m. because there are some votes that we have to take that night because of the upcoming transition in leadership. So that is going to be an evening meeting. So should you have actions that you are able to identify during the first week of school that you say this, we know this could work over here immediately, I would invite you to bring that to that agenda.
Absolutely. And tomorrow, that's going to be what we talk about with principals to understand what their needs are.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the next item this evening is a procurement report, and I believe we have Laura Raven from Hayes County here to talk about the appraisal district's presentation on land purchase and construction of the new facility. And I see Joe.
Hi, I'm Laura Raven, the Chief Appraiser at Hayes Central Appraisal District, and Joe Castillo is our board chairman.
And represent y'all.
And represent. So thank you for the invitation to come today. Marcus has been very diligent about communication, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, President Halsey and board, for having us here, and Dr. Cardona for allowing us to share some information about the needs of the appraisal district. I would like first to say that we are not a county office. We are a political subdivision of the state of Texas, and we are funded solely by all of the taxing jurisdictions, the county included, but we are not under any county governance. We are, again, a political subdivision of the state, and the office is governed by a board of directors and administered by the chief appraiser. If I could give you a little bit of history about appraisal districts, bear with me, I'll try not to go on too long. But it was 1979 legislation that developed appraisal districts. They sought to establish one central district in each county. Before that, each school district, city, county had their own assessors determining value, and so one property owner could have 3 different value assessments that the tax rates for each of those individual units was assessing on the properties. And so the idea was that there would just be one value based on market value. and it separated the appraisal function from the taxation function. They also created independent appraisal review boards. ARBs is how we refer to them, to hear taxpayer protests. They are not employees of the appraisal district, but they are selected by the CAD Board of Directors. We are, initially, oversight was provided by the State Property Tax Board, but that was sunset in the 90s, and now we are under the purview of the Comptroller's Office. And they do annual property value studies 1 year, and then the off year they do a methods and assistance program review on all of our procedures and policies within the office. You probably don't want to hear all about this stuff. So Hays CAD is responsible for providing a certified appraisal roll to each taxing jurisdiction so that you have time to develop a tax rate with the best information available. Appraisal work starts in September, the September prior to the appraisal tax year. Notices of appraised value are mailed out in April 1st. And then property owners have 30 days or until May 15th to file a protest. And that's where our needs come into play. The Hays County, they are referred to as the Hays County Appraisal Review Board, but they begin hearing appeals that can't be settled between the district and property owners in mid-April. And there is a statutory requirement that we have 95% of the value that is appealed settled by July 20th. It's a pretty short window. We had 55,000 plus appeals filed this year. We have 136,000 parcels, so that's a large percentage. 78% of those appeals were filed by property tax agents, not by individual property owners. We had 60 days of hearings this year before July 20th. We have continued over the years to add more appraisal review board members because that pace of 60 days of hearings is a lot for one panel to come every day to hear these appeals repeatedly. So we now have enough folks to have 4 panels, but I only have room for 3 panels. We have a room that's about a third of this size that we separate into 2 panels. So there are 2 different sets of hearings going on at the same time. And then we have a small office that we use for tele-hearings and video conference hearings. A lot of these, the rest of what I'm going to talk about are questions that I received from other entities regarding our requests to approve a purchase of land and construction of a building. You're not seeing that before you now because the process requires 3/4 approval, and by the time this meeting was scheduled, we had received enough no's to knock this project off the board for 2027. But I got good questions from different entities. One of them was about the building that we're in now. And our current building is less than 11,000 square feet. We have 49 employees, 45 parking spaces, the 1 boardroom that houses the 2 panels, and we are packed to the limit. We are sharing offices now. We have what was a 1-person office is now a 4-person office and a 2-person office, and we have utilized every bit of open space to erect workstations. We cut our lobby by 2/3 and packed in workstations in our front office. The office that we're in now was built in 1993 and opened in 1994, which is when I started working at the appraisal district. It was September of 94, and I believe I was employee number 17 or 18. And again, we're now at 49. At the time, that office was 8,300 square feet, and then in the early 2000s, we built a small addition. So we're now almost at 11,000. The question has been asked, do we own our building? And yes, we do own our building, but the land that we are on is owned by Hayes CISD, and they lease it to us for $1 a year. But yes, we do own our building. I was also asked if we were under contract with any land sellers, and we are not. We do have a parcel that appears ideal, but we have not reached out to anyone, to the property owner, because we don't have any funding yet, so it would be difficult to start getting into negotiations without funding.
I don't want to cut you off, but I do have some questions because we've got a busy agenda.
Yes,
So
I
I think
know,
we
I
got
know.
some of this information in advance. I have a question about, you said you've got 45 employees?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
and
49.
49. And the appraisal board members, are those full-time employees or are those people hired?
No.
Seasonally, how does that work?
They are, they work full-time in the summer, but generally from October through March, they just work one day a year.
They're basically appointed by the board of directors.
Okay.
So up until recently, depending on the population of the county, either a judge appoints them or the board of directors appoint them. Now we're back to our board of directors actually appoints members to it. And as Ms. Raven just mentioned, that as we need them, then they'll have appointments with taxpayers that come and do their protests. And so during the height of the protest season, that's when they're more frequently.
Right. But they don't need permanent office space in your building?
No. We just need more space to hold.
So then, if it's not coming to us tonight for a vote, when would you expect it to come back to us, and what would be the ask?
The original ask was, we had an estimated first-year payment of $1.1 million for the loan, and that would be broken out between all of the taxing entities based on your percentage of levy compared to the total levy.
And indirectly, each tax entity has actually put a down payment on it actually. We have, at the end of the audit, there's what we have reserves that we haven't spent budgetarily wise. And so a while back, we came to all the entities and they approved for us to put that in a reserve. So we can't, only thing it can be used for is for the building fund. So we kind of split it between the building, which is kind of what we're talking about now, and also we have to hold elections for 3 of our elected members to the board, and then just legal fees also. So indirectly, each entity is kind of put a down payment towards whatever building we end up building, but it's mainly during the height of protests that we're kind of dealing with, kind of what y'all were dealing with over at the high school. I mean, you have limited amount of space for you to actually function. So that's kind of what we're dealing with the appraisal.
I protested my taxes in person this year, so I'm familiar with how the process works, and I'm familiar with the limitations on your space, and yes, I can see the need for you to have better accommodations. So I'm just one person, but I would go ahead and ask that y'all come back at your earliest convenience. Okay. I don't know what the time limit is for when you can bring it back, but come to us first, bring it back. I'd also encourage you to look at properties in San Marcos, since we are the center of the county. So, Mr. Arredondo, did you want to say anything else?
I was just going to say, I think we're the center of the universe, Ms. Halsey, but other than that, I agree with President Halsey. I apologize that it didn't work out this year, and that just timing-wise, you're now here, and the ship has already left, but I would be interested in this returning sooner rather than later, as early as that process can start, and if we can help lobby our fellow elected officials at the other jurisdictions, count some of us in to help do that.
I appreciate that
And
very much.
kind of what the challenge we have is that, I mean, most of the entities, they understand the situation that we're in. They're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
And really, it's unlike city and county, they have multiple resources to raise their revenue, either sales tax or property taxes. We're at the same boat. So the only thing we can use as revenue is what the entities that we do business with contribute towards that fund. So we can't go to a bond per se, go to the voters and say, y'all are our voters, basically. So, but we appreciate y'all's support, and mainly I think the part that we're kind of realizing is that we just need to educate the rest of the tax entities, for those that voted no. I mean, either they didn't have enough information to make a decision, or maybe they said, well, I need more information for me to make, everybody's struggling financially as far as budgetary. So kind of a bad year for us to kind of push this. But I think just making people more aware of what our needs are, so we can help y'all during that time of the season. So, and I appreciate y'all allowing me to serve, represent y'all, and anytime y'all want me to come and address y'all, feel free to reach out to me, or if you want to come speak to it, I'm available.
Thank you, and thank you for the work you do representing us, and thank you all for the work you do. Having been in that office, I know that there are lots of people who come into the office who are not having the best day, and so I think that you do a lot of really good work, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Principals, if you want to leave right now.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome skits tomorrow. You better be going to practice with your staff for convocation, so.
All right, the next item is the approval of the consent agenda item. Is there a motion?
Can I pull 7E?
Pulling 7E. Yes, are you making a motion to approve A through D?
Yes, so moved.
I'll second.
Motion moved, seconded. Any questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries 7-0. Mr. McLaughlin, would you like to elaborate on item 7E?
I don't understand the addition to counseling. It looked like it was, from what I could tell from the packet, that substitute spending, like substitute teacher spending. I don't understand why that would be paid out of counseling. Like it was a debit from instruction, which is where I would think you would pay for substitute teachers, and it was in addition to counseling. Was it a substitute counselor?
Yes, it's
Oh.
a substitute counselor.
Oh,
Yes.
at the high school, we had a lot of turnover. Do we have a lot of turnover in
It was. It's going to be at Lamar, right?
Oh, okay.
Lamar.
It's going to be at Goodnight. We do have a long-term substitute for a staff member.
Okay.
And so the recommendation, because it was function 11 instruction, it needs to be moved to counseling to pay for that substitute.
Okay, that answers my question.
All right, so is there a motion to approve item E?
So moved.
Motion made, motion seconded by Ms. Kane. Any more questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? That motion also carries 7-0. All right, it's now 7:30. Everybody okay to keep moving through this? Yes. So, right, we are into items for action. The first one is to consider the approval of the School Library Advisory Committee appointee. Do we have an appointee to consider, Dr. Guajardo?
Yes. For District 2, Melissa Walker.
Okay, so that is a motion to approve Melissa Walker for the position 2 appointment. I will second that. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
The person who stepped down, who stepped down? Do we know?
They didn't step down. They no longer qualified because their child graduated, and you have to have a child in San Marcos CISD schools.
Was it that representative on the Slack from Mr. Duran's district?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Duran. The next item is to consider the endorsement for TASB Board Position Region 13, Place B. And I am going to nominate the incumbent, whose name I just lost. I lost my presentation. Sorry. I lost my board book. I'm going to make a motion to nominate the incumbent who is already in that capacity.
Stephen Mackey.
Stephen Mackey, thank you.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? That motion is 601 with Mr. McLaughlin abstaining. All right, the next item for actions are the superintendents. And I think you would like to table item 1 until the September meeting while administration has time to update the pending policy by September 30th, correct?
That is correct. This certification that the board would vote on has to do with some Senate Bill 12 requirements, but we need to check our policies to make sure that what we're giving you, TEC 11.005 has to do with all the anti-DEI stance the board must vote. 28.0022H is instructional materials. The board has to assure the state of Texas that we're going to incorporate American patriotism, Texas history, and the free enterprise system into our U.S. history curriculum that's already there. And then 39.008 has to do with DEI restrictions and classroom restrictions.
Okay, so I don't think we need a vote to table. I think we're just going to move that. Yeah, we're just going to pull that and put it on the regular September meeting. So that brings us.
While we're discussing this item, can we just get that draft language by agenda prep in September so we can see what any proposed changes or amendments would be?
Yes, that's what we want to get you all that info.
Sweet, thank you.
The next item is academics consider the approval of the 2026-2027 Student Code of Conduct.
I'll move to approve. There were hardly any substantive changes.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. McLaughlin, seconded by Ms. Cantu. Any questions? Ms. Kane.
I just want to say thank you for the highlights. I think that was your suggestion, but that was perfect to see. Whoever did the highlights, thank you.
All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Thank you. The next item is procurement. Consider and take possible action regarding the selection ranking of professional architects, engineers for design and contract administration services for the district-wide HVAC systems project, including possible delegation and authority to the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute a contract. Mr. Sandoval.
Ms. Halsey, rather than reading that, I'm just so moved based on the administration's recommendation.
Okay. Motion made. Seconded by Ms. Kane. Are there any questions for administration? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? That motion also carries 7-0. I expect we'll get an update on that next month. Thank you. The next item is under operations. Consider approval of City of San Marcos electrical easement at Goodnight Middle School. I think that's self-explanatory. No question?
No, of course not for me. Mr. Sandoval, why would I grant an easement on a school we already occupy? We've got our certificate of occupancy. I don't need anything from the city, but I'm going to give them a easement across the property.
So as part of the 2023 bond, the construction that we did in the back, we had to purchase a new transformer. So the city, it's the city's property, or it's the city's transformer, which we have to buy. And for them to come maintain it or any kind of repair work that they do, they require this easement.
So it was a new location, or it was a new transformer?
It was a new transformer, existing location.
Well, didn't they have an easement?
I don't think we ever had an easement on record with them.
Okay.
For that.
All right, that answers my question. Thanks. I'll move to approve the easement to the City of San Marcos Electric Utility.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Thank you. The next one is to consider the adoption of the resolution to identify hazardous conditions within 2 miles of a school campus.
I'll move that we adopt those. I didn't see any changes.
Yeah, I'll second, and then I have a couple of questions.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Cleveland, can you give us, I think just for the benefit of people who are not familiar with this item, it comes to us every year, can you just give us a quick overview on why we do this and what it means?
Yes, ma'am. So anytime a hazardous condition is identified, what that is it is a condition that exists where there's no walkway provided and a student must walk along a cross freeway, an expressway, an underpass, an overpass, or a bridge, an uncontrolled traffic artery industrial commercial area or another comparable condition. So if you think about 123 and Hunter Road are the two that impact us the most. What this does is this gives us the ability to designate those hazardous routes and hazardous areas, and as a result provide those students who need it with transportation to protect them whenever they're trying to get to school as opposed to walking.
Thank you. Question, Mr. Hernando?
Thank you, Ms. Halsey. I think I might steal Mr. McLaughlin's thunder here on the 123 thing, but I just want to say it has been something he has brought up, and I've seen little to no movement, and I don't think that's our fault, right? We don't oversee a state highway. It's a city of San Marcos kind of jurisdictional thing with the county. But if there's any way that we can like impanel some type of working group to kind of workshop that, because I know after a football game or before a football game or even just during practice, you have kids and families crossing 123. I mean, and it is a state highway, right? And they're trucking on that road. So I don't have the solution. If I did, I think we would have solved it. But whatever we can do collectively to make that a sense of urgency of solving.
Yeah, if I can jump on that, since this is something I am passionate about. It's getting worse. Since they built those apartments like down 123, kids do crazy stuff through there after school. Like someone's gonna die. And we're gonna just keep talking about, well, we need a solution, and then we're gonna end up naming our pedestrian bridge for the kid that died because it took us too long to do something. So, I mean, that seems to be the most simple thing. Getting that clearance from TxDOT, finding the money from ourselves and partner governmental entities, but how do we get some momentum on it? Like, what do I need to do?
One of the questions we've discussed is, I've asked the question, well, how come Goodnight, some of these other schools are considered school zones, and the schools that are facing on 123 are not? It's basically an address. What it boils down to an address, and that's something the school district has to determine. If we turn around and re-address one of those schools over there and put it on 123, then it becomes a school zone.
I mean, I'll move that mailbox tonight.
Can we do that without, can we like readdress the stadium to be facing 123 while keeping the high school on Rattler Road?
I don't think the stadium has an address, if I'm not mistaken.
The stadium falls under 2601 Rattler Road.
It makes things pretty complicated when you
Right.
try and direct people there, that's for sure.
I'll jump on that. I'll take care of this.
Okay.
I'll start asking the questions and work with TxDOT to see about, I don't know about a pedestrian bridge. That'd be great, but at least maybe changing the address initially to get a school zone, and then we'll look at.
School zone would help, but providing them a safe passage might prevent them from doing dumb things. I mean, still some might, but at least we would know they had a safe way.
I coincidentally got an email 2 days ago from an organization named Safe Routes that has some type of traction in Texas State. So that was actually a group I was going to reach out to this week as well, see what they have. But in terms of football games, we do work with our security company, who is now Syntex Solutions, to control that. As it's referred to, Artery there at Monterey Oak. So it's something we'll continue to look at, and look forward to working with Bernie and Trustee Duran to find these solutions.
Well, and just to add, I know the county had gone to the voters. They have significant resources to bring to bear with their roads program. And as we all know, bond ballot propositions are pretty vague and money can move around. So like maybe if we can lobby our colleagues at the county level to allocate some of those resources, work with the state, whatever that looks like. I think might be resources that we can leverage to do something, even if it's like a technological fix. I know downtown they have, lights that go across the road that actually have light that goes down onto the street as folks are crossing, only when people are crossing. So maybe there's a technological fix that we can incorporate, right? So I know y'all are on it. I trust Bernie. He's going to solve it, I bet. So,
Mr. McLaughlin, you have something else?
No.
Oh,
No, that was me.
Ms. King.
This is my district and my neighborhood, and so there is a lot of conversation within my neighborhood about this as well. I know that SMPD had some safety community gatherings recently where they said they would be happy to help do some of that navigation with TxDOT on some of this, so that might be a place. We obviously have some connections there too, but also anybody can submit a comment to TxDOT and highlight it as an area that you're concerned about, and I did that recently, got a very quick response, so if everybody jumps on to TxDOT, maybe we'll get some traction there too.
Thank you. So then, sorry, do we have a motion to,
I'll move to adopt the hazardous condition. Whatever we call it.
Second. Sorry, we already had Kane and, we already said, we already did. So all in favor,
discussing, okay, super.
please raise your hand. Opposed? Thanks, everyone. The next item is to consider the agreement for the purchase of attendance credits from the state.
So moved.
It has to be, we have very specific language on that.
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez, do you want to give us some direction?
Yes, Ms. Halsey, thank you for that. And it's an annual notice that we have to make our determination on how we, if we received any excess local revenue, how we would like to pay that back. And so we do have language that TEA is very specific with, and we would just ask that we have selected something that's not finalized until we receive all of our property taxes, certified values, and our M&O tax rate. So there is a final determination. Right now, we are just asked, the board is asked to approve the recommendation that we are making this evening.
Ms. Kane?
Okay. I move that we approve the following. For the 2026-2027 school year, we delegated contractual authority to obligate the school district under Texas Education Code, TEC, 11.1511C4 to the superintendent, solely for the purpose of obligating the district under TEC 48.257 and TEC Chapter 49, Subchapters A and D, and the rules adopted by the Commissioner of Education as authorized under TEC 49.006. This included approval of the agreement for the purchase of attendance credit, the agreement for the purchase of attendance credit netting Chapter 48 funding, or the agreement for the purchase of attendance credit and netting Chapter 48 funding.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions? Uh-huh. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Thank you very much. The next item is to consider the acceptance of the certified appraisal roll and supplemental appraisal roll for the San Marcos CISD School District. That was presented in our board book. Are there any questions on that item?
No, I'll move to accept the certified and supplemental appraisal rolls for tax year 2026 for SMCISD as in our book.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. McLaughlin, seconded by Ms. Kane. Any questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? That motion also carries 7-0. Which brings us to closed session as authorized by section 551 and .071 and 551.074 of the Texas Government Code and Code 37.108C to move into closed session to address A, B, and C as specified in the agenda. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Cantu, seconded by Mr. McLaughlin. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. We will do that. I know the cabinet is here to meet with us. We're going to do the school safety issues first, and then we'll bring cabinet back. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
No, we're waiting on Sandra.
It is 9:28. We are resuming an open session and we are taking action on the item discussed in closed session as A, accept the Texas School Safety Center SMCISD 3-year safety and security audit. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Arredondo, seconded by Mrs. Kane. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed, that motion carries. Thank you all very much for joining us this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow at Convocation and have a great school year. We really appreciate everybody.
Nailed it.